Oh, gosh.
Ta-da. Hi, welcome to Awakenings Within. How is everybody today? It's coffee chat time.
You wonder if anybody's awake at Awakenings.
Is anybody awake in Awakenings? Let's take
I'm
a
awake.
look.
Are you awake?
I'm awake. Yeah.
Really? Or a lot?
A little.
A little awake.
A little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. What do you got today? Oh, you got.
I have this. Hey, you know me. I stick to a good thing.
Yeah. You in Colorado. Mugs up.
Exactly.
Mine says Jesus and coffee because I need Jesus today for sure. And coffee.
There you go.
Jesus first, though. A friend of mine's son passed away, so I'm a little.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He was my friend too. He was in his 20s. We were close. So in Virginia. So say a prayer for the Fuller Johnson family.
Yes.
So please. Morning.
Yeah,
y'all.
it's been that kind of a year. I know our friend Dr. B went through that last week. One of his students passed away after a wedding, like after his wedding at a party. So
after his wedding.
Yeah. It's so bizarre. And poor Dr. B was doing a mess because this was one of his former students. So yeah, we're all kind of dealing with a world right now that it's interesting because I mean, I don't want to get too deeply philosophical on Monday morning, but one of the things that's hard for us in the US to kind of grasp is that we have so much stability in terms of our infrastructure that we sort of have this sense of predictability about life. We get up in the morning, we turn on the light switch, we expect the lights to go on, right?
Yeah.
Open the tap, water comes out. We get in our car, it turns on. Like all these things that we feel like we're in control. And then suddenly we get into these situations where it's out of our control.
We're not.
And it kind of messes with you, doesn't it? Because it's like I feel powerless in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm usually my bubbly self, but not today. So
well, that's okay. We all go through these kind of seasons in our lives, and we're going through it. Everybody's kind of going through it personally in their family situations and their relational circles. We're kind of going at it at a national level. I mean, if there was ever a time in your life where you needed to be anchored into something bigger than us,
that's right. That's right. That's why I picked this Jesus and coffee, because if I'm not grounded in Jesus, I don't know. So So they're all saying hi to one another. Hello.
I think that's what one of the things
Michael.
that makes the Judeo-Christian worldview interesting is the fact that we, in the Judeo-Christian world, we see ourselves as eternal creatures. And so that the story doesn't actually end in physical death, and I think that gives us hope.
Yeah. And I know that's where he is too. My friend Dominique.
Yeah, it doesn't make it any easier on the earthly plane.
Yeah.
But it gives us hope that the story isn't over, and that this
they're my adopted family. I adopted them as my family.
Oh yeah.
So he said that praying. Thank you guys. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Mark. Nice to see you, Mark. Praying for. Yeah, they're my adopted family in Virginia. He had little sisters, and his mom had already been going through some hard stuff. So just lift up this family. They really need it. They need the prayers.
Yeah, I think as we were talking about this the other day, I think all of us are sort of going through a year where we're feeling loss more than maybe ever, or at least in a longer season of time. It's like we're in this year of loss. But you know that as I've said to
In
you, I have
some
this
ways.
wise little mother who's
In
still
some
working up
ways.
there in Naperville, who
Yeah.
always says to me, "Remember, honey, life is like the ocean tide; it goes out, and it feels like it's never going to come back in, but it always does." And it's the same thing with life. It's like we're going into a
Agreed.
season right now where trees are going to lose their leaves.
Yeah.
Flowers are all dying. It looks as though the whole of the northern hemisphere where we are is going to be dead. It's like it's all dying right now, right? And it's depressed. It's like you can feel depressed because it's like everything that's green and bright and beautiful is all disappearing, and we're going into this season of long dark days.
Yeah.
And early, like tonight is gonna be like dark at 5 o'clock, and it's weird, right? Because it just feels like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's all right. But what is it? It's a season. It's a season. And that's, I think, the thing that we have to realize about life is that there's cycles and seasons, and we're in a season, and life itself, our life on earth is a season.
It is. That's why it's important to have this awakening within, so you know where you're grounded, like you said, and that's the whole point, is for us to know. Romans 8:28, which I don't have my Bible. I think I know it, but I don't want to.
I mean, it's a weird concept.
Yeah.
I know it, again, trying not to get too deep on Monday, but it's a weird concept. But the extremes are what actually causes us to appreciate things, i.e., death is what causes us to value and appreciate life. That's the weird paradox that I call it, living between dynamic tensions.
Yes.
Or diametric, which means the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So if there was no death, life would have very little meaning.
Yeah. Right.
Right. We would never.
Cyclical.
Right?
Yes.
So
And
see this. I see this all the time with people who are dealing with terminal illnesses like cancer or things like that. Our guest on Thursday night, Paul Kaufman, who went through dealing with cancer. When you get on the other side of it, the thing that I see 100% of the time is how much they value life.
Yes.
Right? They carpe diem, they suck the marrow out of it. They're present in the moment. They're grateful for every little, right? Because you realize that you almost didn't have that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot so I guess what I'm trying to say is we could take some of these painful experiences that we've got and use them to try to find some good in that, which is learning how to just appreciate more what we do have.
Right. And all things work together for good. That's what I thought it was.
But and realize how important the relationships in our life are today, because tomorrow they might not be there.
That's right.
Remember what I said earlier, right? We have this sense that we're in control. We
are not in control.
Right. But
we are not in control,
because we live in, right? You get outside of here, when you travel as much as I do into what we used to call the third world, right? I mean, every day these people have no control. I mean, they live day to day in the moment. You know what I mean? Death is happening constantly. Even used to be 1 out of every 2 children under the age of 5 didn't make it.
Yeah, the mortality rate for infants.
So there's so much we have to be thankful for. But then we get in these moments like you're dealing with right now, where suddenly it's out of your control.
Yeah,
and it sucks.
And it does.
And it hurts. And you're like, ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a shocker. So,
right.
And then it brings up, my own sons, it brings up a mortality for that and mortality for me. And then you're doing mortality stuff. I think I go, I know that I'm not going to live forever. I know that there's going to be a time, and I, of course I have a place hoped for, right? So I'm, the pearly gates and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my whole mission, it changes it changes your focus. So it's changed my focus already today, this week. So
Really?
now my focus has been diverted, right?
Right.
So now it's time to decide, okay, say you were just kind of like going along and you're not really walking in your purpose and in your mission and all that, and something like this makes you remember what it is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you've neglected that. Let's move forward.
Well,
I had a weird weekend anyway, because it was fun. I had a fun weekend. I kind of did some fun things. But then yesterday, have you ever had a moment where like some of that you go, bam, I felt guilty. Like I'm like, ooh, where did that come from? Why am I feeling guilty? It was because I was around
about
people.
having fun.
I felt guilty about being around people.
Oh, because of the
like I just all of a sudden got this like remorse thing. I was like,
pandemic.
Oh, yes.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And it came at me because I went out and I had people, a small gathering, small before I get, the people, small gathering. But then I went out to a bigger gathering.
Okay.
So then when you're around a bunch of people and you're like, the next day, as I went to go, help with elder care, I was thinking to myself, I got to rethink those choices. So, anyway, and it's only because of them, not because of me, I didn't feel guilty for myself. I kind of just felt guilty because I'm like, okay, now I'm going to be around these people that are in that percentage. And I would feel horrible if I were to, spread a virus. Right. So,
yeah, I understand.
So it's like, I had that like little grippy thing already. So I already was kind of like, again, everything's out of my control, but I have to make wise choices through that regardless. So I don't know. I can't, I was kind of shocked at myself that it kind of like hit me like that. I was like, whoa, what was that about?
Right.
So, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, what did you guys do this weekend do you question? I'm questioning my decisions now, like all the time, like questioning where I go, what I'm going to do. Is that coming into center for you, Bob?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I honestly, the dilemma that I find myself in is confusion. And the reason I'm confused, of course, is there's such, again, diametric perspectives on what we're dealing with and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's complicated. So it
is complicated,
right? Because you're dealing with two really different worldviews, right? About how best to deal with what it is we're dealing with, and yet nobody quite knows what it is we're dealing with. So it's kind of like, if you want to know the truth, there's a phrase called paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I know that.
I feel.
Yes.
It's like, I don't do anything. Like, I don't know what to do. Right.
Right. Look at what Suzanne put. I like hers.
What my life is in order to put food on the table, I have to interact with people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Right. As much as they want to lock me down and tell me to stay home.
Yeah.
They're not paying the bills.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, if you want to tell me to stay in my cage, then are you going to pay me to stay in my cage? No. So how do you, you know what I mean? It's kind of a weird thing. And so all of us out here are trying to figure out, well, how do we keep our paying the bills? Well, we got to interact with people.
Yeah.
We do the best we can. So there's certain situations where you just have to interact. So I can't help it. Yes. Like, life goes on.
It does. But I like what she said. I don't want a social hangover. I like that I don't want a social hangover.
I guess I asked myself, so what's the difference for me going to the grocery store, or I'm with a whole crowd of people, right? And me
Right.
going to a social gathering.
Well, there is a difference depending on what social gathering you're going to.
What's that?
I said it depends on what social gathering you're going to, because again, it comes back into the maskers, the non-maskers,
I'm just talking
social
about
distance.
being in groups of people. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like,
Well, I'm about to do a group of people tomorrow standing in line for voting.
I went to Trader Joe's on Saturday.
Oh, you have to stand in the line. You have to stand on the dot.
I had gone a couple months ago. I'd gone shopping for some hiking shoes down in Overland Park, and it was a big situation, right? But what got really weird was when I walked in, I'm used to like pulling the shoes out of the boxes and trying them on. Well, they had a big rope, and there was a guy behind the rope, and then I had to pick on the wall. Then he would hand them over to me. It was just so weird. I was like, wow, this is
this is a whole new
weird world, but at Trader Joe's was the first place where I saw them actually, like keeping the amount of people in the store to a minimum. So that was kind of interesting. The line moved pretty quick, but still I got in line. It was hilarious because we're all trying to keep our social distancing, but then we get to checkout and there's just massive group of people all crowded in at checkout. And I'm going, okay, this is just like weird here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where it all doesn't make sense.
Spaced out before we got in here, but now we're all crowded in here because you're so slow checking us all out. There's a massive.
Yeah. Well, I went to the mall yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I had to get a couple things, and all the stores there, though, you had to social distance. They had a little thing outside. They had the sanitizer. They had the masks and whatever. I mean, I had forgotten my mask when I walked in JCPenney, and I went, it's one of those. I went, oh no, I don't have a mask on. I had to go find a mask to buy in the store,
right?
Because I could have went back to my car. I mean, let's be honest. But I was like, So I bought the mask. And of course, I had sticker shock when she told me how much it was. I was like, oh, $15 for a mask. What?
Yeah. You can't go anywhere without a mask. So the debate about whether to wear a mask or not wear a mask is kind of moot.
It's done. Right.
Yeah, you can't even get into a building without it, where it really becomes a choice issue.
Well, people were looking at me. What? They were looking at me, and I was showing them that I had one in my hand. Like, I was showing them I was buying it. I was like, I was having that whole thing. I'm like, am I really back to this place again? Like I was in March? Are you kidding me right now? No. I mean, I kind of, this weekend, like I said, I'm kind of already in a weird mode because it's like, I feel like I regressed. Like I went backwards,
right.
And I don't know why. I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
So it gets confusing. And so that's why with me, like I said, I get paralysis by analysis because you start reading and you get such diametric views on the same thing, and people, it's sort of endemic of our whole culture at the moment where things are so polarized. It's like, we have just such diverse worldviews. People are looking at the same situation, drawing very, very different conclusions.
Yeah.
And of
course,
what
Kenny said.
That's relationships, isn't it? I mean, there's a reason why people get divorced, you know what I mean? And it's because you got two people who have such different worldviews about things that the relationship is incompatible. You know what I mean? You have that in business relationships that fall apart, right? Because again, people, so relationships falling apart based on different worldviews isn't anything new. It's just that right now everything seems to be on steroids. And but so let's put this into even a bigger perspective.
Okay, before you do that, let's make a joke about Michael though, because he only put I. We could add anything we want to that.
Right. But if you so we're focused on the US right now because that's where we live.
That's where we live.
But if you pay attention what's happening around the world right now, it's what we're feeling here isn't unique to the United
No,
States.
it's everywhere.
It's
Yes,
everywhere.
it
Meaning,
is.
so what the reason why I say that is because sometimes we can get myopic as Americans and go, you know, oh, it's, you know, it's our problem. Well, it's the whole world right now
Yes.
is in a state of tension, in a state of anxiety. You know, people are just, you know, and you know, I see this, you know, in dealing with the poor. If you've ever seen a world hunger or whatever, that world vision, that's what it is.
Yeah,
You
World
ever seen a
Vision.
World Vision truck with seed or food pull into a poor area? They have to have armed guards around the truck.
I've seen
because
that.
people will kill each other in their desperation to get to the food.
Oh, wow.
So humans, you know, we humans, because our survival instincts are so strong that, you know, our emotions get ramped up. And so things get so intense, you know?
Yeah.
And so the whole world right now is on edge. So this is where I think, you know, as you and I've talked about it, and what the program is about is if you don't have some sort of center, you're not grounded. If you know what I mean, if your worldview is one that's predicated on what everybody else says and does,
right, your
you
environment, right?
Be a mess right now.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you want to use a word picture, right, it's like we're in a tennis match. There's this side, this worldview, and that worldview, and we're the little ball, right? And they're just hitting us. You know, we're caught in the middle of that in this political season right now, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're the little tennis ball, and the elephant and the donkey are playing tennis, and we're caught in the middle, right?
The elephant and donkey.
So it's like if you don't realize, if you don't take control, of your own life, you're going to be hit back and forth over the net, right?
Yeah. Well, I heard yesterday from a friend that they're hearing that we're going to be in a civil war. So I'm like, oh, that's the word on the street. So word on throughout the world anyway. That's what they're saying. And so I was like, well, they asked me, is that true? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, but then again, I don't know. But what does it mean? I'm not going to listen to all this other bias either, I don't know. And that's why I said, I don't know anybody that's got their rifles at their front door ready to go to civil war. I don't know anybody that's doing that right now. So I don't think that that's true. Well, but I could be, again, because I don't know everything.
Right.
But like we're saying, it doesn't matter because I know the precautions I need to take. I know the groundedness that I have, and I have faith. I have faith that I have a God that's going to protect me. Right. So I guess I'm not going to worry about it until I have to worry about it. I mean, that's it. I don't have any other recourse.
Right.
I mean, I can't live my life on hypotheticals. So, like you're saying, paralysis analysis, like you can't live on a hypothetical of what may. Now, do we know? Not really. If it happens, I think we'll be pretty quick in assessing that. Right. So,
well, again, the Civil War thing, just laying cards on the table. I was told in the 80s by somebody who tended to be a seer that we were going to head in that direction, and there was going to be a religious war. And when people talk about religious war, it's worldviews, spiritual worldviews.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen? Like you said, there's, who knows? The seed is there. I think what people are recognizing is that we are very, very fragmented, But this COVID thing has put everybody on edge, right?
A different.
So what I'm seeing
Mhm.
is that emotions are magnified. Like what's happening right now is because of all the fear, right?
Yes.
Fear is what's driving everything right now. Fear. I mean, and you could see it,
Yeah.
if you read through the news feeds, all the articles are by the fear. If that person gets in, these bad things are going to happen. If that person gets in, these bad things are going to happen. If
Right.
that doesn't, right? And it's all fear driven.
Yes.
So right now, if we go back to my analogy, the tennis balls, if we're the tennis balls in the big game, right?
Yeah.
We're being hit with fear constantly. Fear of this, fear of that, fear of that,
Yeah.
right? And it's all based on the big picture. All these bad things are going to happen. So it's got people's emotions ramped up right now. Plus the fact that we human beings are not good at being caged, especially Americans, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to Europe, it's a different culture, and people are very compliant.
Yes.
People, they defer to their governments. They defer to people in authority. Right? Americans still have a bit of wild, wild west in their soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we still,
like I said, the rifle at the front door. I might get one. I might have one.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's inbred in our DNA, our cultural DNA. So Americans just don't like to be caged. We don't like to be not have choices. And so what happens is people rebel.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So because remember Isaac Newton's formula for every, but he was talking about inanimate
is reaction. Yes,
there's a corresponding and equal reaction.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing with humans, except for it's not equal. Excuse me. It's not equal and corresponding.
Right.
You see what I mean? It's not equal. It's sometimes the response can be bigger than the initial thing, right? So we're in action and reaction. And so what you're seeing is just things bouncing off each other, right? It's just like every time this person makes a statement, there's a reaction, and we're just all reacting. And I think that's where what I'm saying is if you get caught up in the game, right? If you let yourself be the tennis ball,
then you're gonna be volleyed.
Be driven by fear, right?
Yeah.
Fear is what's going to drive you.
Yeah.
Hysteria is going to be the result, right?
Yes.
Anxiety is going to be
very high,
and you're going to be sick to your stomach all the time, right? And so that's where you got to pull yourself back out of the craziness, right? The madness.
Yeah. That's what I say.
And so that's why I have I haven't posted it this year, but I have a little meme that I put up of a donkey and an elephant. And I think the subheading is God doesn't look like either one of these.
Right. That's the truth.
Right.
So yeah. Did you see what Heather said? The Wild Wild West. Have you met her kinfolks? she's from Oklahoma.
Oh yeah. But it's true.
I have kinfolks like it too. So
yeah.
So that's where, again, do precautionary things, do what you need to do, but do it with rationale, let's be rational here if we can. And I'm going to react if only, stuff like that is starting to go on. Well, then I will react. Right. So,
but again,
do what you need to do.
The thing you've got
have a plan. If you need to,
about it, where is it going to happen? If it happens, where is it going to happen?
In the major cities.
Yes, it's in the urban areas.
In the major cities, it's not gonna. Right, it's not gonna be out here so quickly. I don't think.
So everything that we've seen in the past and everything that we're seeing in the present, it's all the rural, it's all the urban areas.
Yeah.
So that's kind of sucks for me because I live in downtown Kansas City, but And
I didn't know that. You do? I didn't know you lived in downtown. You do?
I would say this. I
Oh.
would say this. Now, this is just me being a prognosticator, but if we do
Say that again, a prognosticator. Make sure that you define that, because who knows what a prognosticator is besides Michael, probably.
Yeah. So I'm just saying,
Kenny probably knows.
if there was a time to be living in Kansas City, it would be during a season of national conflict. And the reason I say that is that it's not that Kansas City doesn't have its issues, and it doesn't mean that violence and things can't happen here.
Right.
But Kansas City is on a scale of 1 to 10, it would be down on the bottom, right?
Yes.
The conflict areas are and you see it's typically on the coasts, the coastal cities.
Right.
And so there, you still have the one thing I've noticed from a cultural point of view is you still have here in the Midwest a family, you still have that sort of rural value system that's relational,
Yeah, where people take care of each other. They help each other. They take care of each other. They give you tomatoes.
I moved to California in the early 90s,
Yeah.
And it was kind of a shock to me, to be honest with you. And the reason is that so many people were from somewhere else. And they had no roots there.
Right. So there was no community.
The loneliness was just off the charts.
Yeah.
And family and everything. And so I was like, I really, again, talking about what we talked about earlier, I had a whole new appreciation for Kansas City after living out there. Right. I went because of values again. Right.
Yeah.
Out there, it was all about the show.
Well, I moved
facade, right? Everybody, because of the fact that so everybody was about the stuff and the status, and it was so facade, and I was like, wow. We're back in the Midwest. People are just more relational.
It's true, because funny, a couple months ago, when I was Uber driving, I picked up this couple, and they were from Redondo, they're from LA. And I was telling him, oh yeah, I've been to Redondo, blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, oh, well, we're staying somewhere out here in some place near, the Legends. And she was just and she goes, we're here for a wedding. And she was like, and it's so, the hotel that they put us in, she's like, they'd let me go to an outlet or something. And at least I got to buy a Louis Vuitton bag. And I was like, oh, okay. She goes, I'm sure you can appreciate that. And I'm thinking, I'm your Uber driver. Am I appreciating that? Sure. So I was laughing so hard because she thought that she could relate to me somehow. I don't know how, but just because I said I'd been to Redondo, but
you're already seeing things happen. I mean, I've watched a few shows recently, and all they're talking about is how people are just rushing out of California. I mean, they got a massive crisis. People are rushing out of Portland. Yep. People don't want to live in, that's what I'm saying.
I've been watching things where the guys were in LA and they've moved to Texas.
Right.
They've moved to Texas. I mean, can you get any more?
Well, you're seeing
contrast.
So this is weird. So Californians are moving to Texas. People from Illinois are moving to Tennessee.
Oh.
So it's very fascinating. People, of course, from New York moving to Florida.
Wow.
There's thing, right? And so, and again, a lot of it has to do. They're tired of all the hysteria and the extremes. And
no, I mean, New York is breaking my heart. This time of the year, when I lived in Virginia, we were preparing to maybe take that bus trip up to for Thanksgiving, time, because they decorate all the streets and, it becomes this magical place around Thanksgiving to Christmas. It's beautiful. What New York usually does. I bet you they're not going to be doing that this year. And it's going to be sad. I'm used to Macy's and their Macy's parade for Thanksgiving. And then, almost a tradition, and yeah, I'm just so sad because I mean, I hear from New Yorker friends that it's not like that right now, and it's not going to be. And so
there's some serious problems in New York, California,
and it's all who the leaders are. So do your voting tomorrow, please.
Well, it's Portland. Vote. I mean, it's mass exodus, and it's like who somebody asked the question, like, who would want to open a business in California right now? Who would want to open a business? Like, people don't want to live in conflict zones. So here's my prognostication. If what people think is going to happen happens, which is the country descends into civil war. And when we think civil war, I think we're already in a civil war. People, you know what I mean?
When we think the Civil War, what is the first thing we think? Muskets, right? Like musket guns and people.
And in some places, I think it may descend into that. But I'm just saying we're already in a civil war. We're already there.
We are. No, we are. So I agree.
Where I'm prognosticating is if it spills out into accelerated violence, what you may find is a huge influx of people fleeing to the Midwest, you know what I mean? It's like people will go to the places of peace.
Yeah.
The places where it's they just don't want to live in a war zone.
Well, I just moved, from Virginia Beach, and it's like one of the biggest, military places in the country. So it's got all of the different military bases. So that'll be a difficult one. And I always thought to myself, because where we lived was so close to two bases, two of them, not just one. And you could actually hear over the, I could sit in the backyard and hear their announcements for the base. That's how close we were. And I always worried about that. I thought, well, if something happens, war breaks out, something, one of our neighborhoods going to be one of the first to be invaded or whatever, because we're right next to the military base. So, or we'll be the safest. I'm like, it's one or the other. It's going to be bad or the best.
Well, people, you've all seen, the news reels of refugees. You know what I mean? You see the Cubans trying to flee here in rafts. You see Syrians fleeing. You see all these, and so it's hard for us in the U.S. to grasp the fact that we could have refugees in the United States, because we think of it in terms of the extreme, but we're already seeing it. People are fleeing California. They're fleeing Illinois. They're fleeing New York. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a photo I saw on Friday of the highways out of Paris, because Macron decided to lock down Paris. Right. Yes. And they're just, the highways out of Paris it was like a massive traffic jam because everyone's fleeing Paris.
Yeah. Well, here's the issue. Like yesterday when I was talking to a friend that's a little far away, the problem is even if something happened, they're like, well, you can come here. And I'm like, no, because I can't get in your country. Like right now, I can't fly out of here to go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, we're locked down. So this is the first time ever, right? So that even us as Americans, we can't go elsewhere and no one can come in here. So that's kind of scary that we really are.
The thing is that this is where, I mean, I don't want to get weird here and don't do this based on what I'm saying, but people who have foresight, right, would understand that if such a thing happened, being in real estate would be a really good thing, because you have all these people coming here looking for land, right? Because that's what we all want. We all want a little square piece of land where we can build. And so, I mean, just like we saw with COVID, in my book, I talk about the top 5, how the top 5 tech companies are 40% of NASDAQ, right? If you take the combined valuation of the 5 top tech companies, they're the 4th largest country in the world.
Right.
That's how big, right?
Right.
Well, guess who has made the biggest killing financially because of COVID? The top 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that in these seasons of crisis, right, people make fortunes. You just have to be forward thinking. You got to understand the times and seasons, and because making money is about supplying people with something they need.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to read your book before this happened. That's not fair.
I know. But I'm just saying, so
if I would have read your book before, I would have had it in place.
My grandfather, I learned it from my grandfather because he was trying to explain to me how many millionaires came out of the Depression.
Okay, so
sorry, I got it.
Oh, Michael says I can find a coyote to take me across the border. That's nice. Okay, where's the coyotes?
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, but it's just these are interesting times and seasons. And
it is an interesting time because now I'm scratching my head. I mean, it's too late. It's too late to do anything rash right now. Just saying.
But here's one of the things I tried to explain to people through my book.
Ride the wave.
Right, because of technology, change can happen so quickly. And that's something that we're either not prepared for or not aware of, because change happens because of the transfer of information.
Yeah.
Right. So thousands of years ago, information had to change hands verbally. Like you had to be in someone's presence for information to get transferred. Right. Then we figured out how to write, and we wrote down things, and those things got print. Right. We're in an age right now where massive amounts of information are moving instantaneously to billions of people. So that's one of the things that we all have to sort of grasp right now.
So if there's a civil war, what do you think would happen? I think that they would shut the internet down.
Well, what's interesting about the internet is that's the whole reason it was set up in the first place, so that couldn't happen. Right. Because the reason it was set up originally was under the auspices that the Russians were going to nuke us and take out our above ground communication systems. And so we had to create a system to communicate, that was not predicated on a single source. Right. And so they created the internet because it had nodes everywhere. Right. And so traffic could be rerouted depending on when and where. And so the whole thing originally was set up as in the Department of Defense. There was never a commercial idea about it being commercialized into what it's become today. But the basis that it was set up for is no longer in play.
Well, and NASA had a big part of that, IBM.
So now, I have friends right now that are currently working on very interesting tech for the days ahead, because obviously, moving information and so in smaller countries like in Zimbabwe, where I work, it's exactly what you said, because of the fact that the government there, all traffic goes through a single node.
Okay.
When there were protests, they shut the internet down. Right. So that's what African dictators do. They shut it down so that people can't communicate. So now people are trying to figure out ways around that. Right.
Yeah.
So there's all those kind of things are still in play right now. But where I was going with this originally was you have to realize or prepare yourself emotionally and mentally to realize that we are in a very different season in terms of humanity, and that the slow wheels of change that you're used to
is sped up.
Have sped up dramatically and are going to speed up even faster. So that's unnerving to a lot of people, which again brings us back to what are you rooted in? If your whole security is based on, things around you, all these other things around you, you're going to find yourself with a lot of anxiety.
Right.
Because things are going to change and you're not going to have any control over the change. You can only control your reaction to it.
Right. That's right.
So I'm only warning people just so that they prepare themselves emotionally, right? And just realize that it's knowledge is moving so quickly.
Yes.
We 98% of all the world's knowledge has happened in the last 100 years. If you can fathom that, I mean, 98% of what we know is only 100 years old.
So crazy, right?
It's insane, eh?
It's very crazy.
So it's just
they're having a sidebar conversation. Michael says have 30 days of food and water, and then Heather says good in theory, but what if they can't afford to be that prepared due to loss of income? So that's where we have to start being community wise and reach out to one another in those times. I think that's my personal opinion on that.
What did I just talk about in Paris? Okay, this is interesting. When Macron locks down the city, where's everybody going? Like, in other words, there were literally millions of cars fleeing Paris. So where were they going? You know where they were going? To the rural areas.
Yeah, to their family.
See, this is
their family and friends.
So again, if you want to look at this from the 50,000 foot view, like around the time of the First World War, nearly 65 to 70% of us lived in the rural areas on the farms. After World War II, it was still half the country lived in the rural areas.
Yeah.
The urbanization, massive amounts of people crowded into small spaces is a very new phenomena.
Well, see, my grandparents who were around the Depression time, right? So they all lived together. So they all had a flat in the city in St. Louis. And on the first floor were the parents. On the second floor were the kids. And if there was a basement or a third floor, the grandparents were there. So the whole family unit for generations were in the same household. Yeah. So that's how we did that. That's how they did that. That's how they got through.
Almost all your immigrant families are like that. Exactly.
And that's how they survive. And so, I mean, I feel like we've lost that somewhat. That's it goes back into what we're always talking about with the selfishness and looking at self, I mean, like me, I have a pretty, big place for one person. So, I'd have to just have people come live in my space or something. I don't know,
I'm not gonna tell people what to do, but because every situation in the country is different. But I just think that having land and a little place in the country, even if it's a tiny house, a little cabin somewhere,
that's
an alternative outside of the urban areas. Because like we just said earlier, when things get crazy, or if things get crazy, it's gonna happen in the urban areas. So if you don't want to be in the middle of crazy, then just find if you can afford it, or if you've got family. A lot of people still have rural roots. Somebody in the family still has the farmhouse, or there's still land that runs in some of these families. And so I'm just saying that's one alternative. In other words, just have a plan B, where you're not dependent, on
be off the grid.
Yeah. Even if that's what's happening. So now
but Heather's
all the people in Paris who don't want to be locked down are all going back to the family farms.
Yeah, well, here, Heather just put the call out to all the TP hoarders. Thanks, Heather. We appreciate it. Now we're not going to have toilet paper for the next week. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So if we go over to Heather's house and we go in her garage, we won't find any cars in there. We'll just find boxes.
Heather
full
just put Heather just put the TP call out. Darn exactly. It. Dang it. I have to go see if I have some now. Thanks a lot, Heather.
No, but I'm just saying it's just
Tiny House Nation.
I don't want to get all weird and on people and just
so we're following Michael to the Ozarks?
Panic. I'm just saying create a plan B, you have
to have a plan. That is that's the thing. You have to have a plan. And I've had a plan up here.
Right.
You just have to put it into action.
Right.
So yeah. So she said,
I just noticed, they were showing pictures the other day of like all these urban areas, all the stores are buying. I mean, all the plywood in the United States is going to, cover all these storefront windows. It's like people are already there. Like they're, it's not about if, it's just when.
Yeah.
Right. So all these merchants now have boarded up their stores.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow. So we're not the only ones talking about this. There's all kinds of people already in the business world that are already assuming something's going to happen.
So we better go to Sam's Club today. Hey, wait a minute. No, don't go to Sam's Club today. Go to Costco because I'll be at Sam's Club.
Well, it's just fascinating,
I'm going to have to go stock up on stuff now that I think about it.
Well, it's just, who knows, again,
a friend of mine really
you get away from the core of the urban areas, the better chance you are of avoiding conflict.
Yeah.
So, and then, what typically happens again, what's interesting about these, it's the same thing that happens, in all the time. When there's a crisis, people turn to family.
Yeah.
Right? They turn.
Yeah, my family's all scattered everywhere.
I know, but people still, that I've seen this before. Then sometimes crisis brings them all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's about what ends up happening is you begin to value your relationship. So we get back to relationships again, right?
Yeah.
Like all this stuff is swirling around us. And where do we go? We go to our relationships.
Yeah.
That's why they're so important. That's why, time should be invested,
And that's why we're doing that. Oh, she told you that if you get stuck in her garage, you'll never come out, by the way. So I don't know if you had read that. I left it up there for a while.
I hadn't seen that one. Sorry.
Oh, that's nice. He has a few toy guns I can wave around.
Oh.
I have a couple lightsabers.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Yes. Head to Jerry's. That's true.
Right.
I mean, that actually is true. Mm-hmm. I have an extended family there. I know who they are. I know if they're packing or they're not.
But again, see, the thing we gotta realize is what's at the root of all of the craziness, and it's always fear.
Yeah.
Right.
And is that wrong? Is it wrong that I'm not fearful? Is that wrong?
Well, no, because what is, speaking about a biblical, God has not given us a spirit of fear.
I'm not fearful. I was telling you, I was having some remorse about going into people, but I'm not fearful. Like I'm not fearing something. Right. In my spirit, I'm not feeling a dreadful thing either. So I'm trying to check in and find out, why, because I think I should. Well, I'm not feeling a spirit of anything. So I feel peace actually. So I don't understand if it's just me, and the Holy Spirit covers me and I feel that peace, then I have the armor of God on, and that's why, so how do you get to that place? I mean, you have to study and you have to connect with God and prayers. And I mean, that's all I can say. That's the formula. The formula is to
the Bible talks about us walking circumspectly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a time to walk circumspectly, meaning that keep your eyes open, watch,
You have to.
Listen,
You have
be
to.
discerning.
I mean, don't put your head in the sand. I mean, I don't just go to God and go, okay, I know you're going to protect me because I know that he will.
Right.
But he looks to me to make wise decisions and choices in that, and to ask him, okay, is this the time? Should I go out my door and go drive down the street and go to somewhere safe? I mean, there is that, you have to be wise about it. You have to listen to the promptings, and
what
that's
I'm
it.
reminded of is the fact that the darkness actually is what causes the light to have more impact. So
Yes.
I know this sounds weird, but the
No,
reason why I'm
but
not all weirded out about things going is I'm looking at it going, oh, this could be a credible opportunity. You see, I'm looking at it going, when people are being driven by fear, when people are confused, when people, right? It's an incredible opportunity to shine your light, right? And just say, here, let me show you a different perspective. So, I'm not, that's what I mean by circumspectly, and watching, because I'm looking for opportunity. Like what's sitting out there, that, where can we make an impact, versus see what happens with fear is, you see this all the time. You ever notice how fear drives us into self-centeredness?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, see, I was just reading what they're saying. They're going to go, let's see, they're going to go run out, but I don't know. I have a spirit of running in, not running out. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm supposed to, like we're talking about, be a light. So how can I be a light if I'm hiding? I can't. I need to stay where I'm at to do the work that I need to do. But that's my own personal mission, my own personal.
Well, you see this happen. You see this sort of happen with the great Jewish teacher Paul, right? He runs into this prophetic guy, right? Who basically tells him, if you go to Jerusalem, they're going to arrest you.
Yeah.
Right. And so based on our way of thinking and our self-preservation mindset, we would all naturally think, oh, well, Paul, don't go to Jerusalem. But he goes.
Right.
And the reason he goes is he doesn't think getting arrested is a bad thing, because he sees it as an opportunity, because he knows that he's going to, as a Roman citizen, go through a whole series of court cases and things where he's going to be able to actually preach the gospel, the good news message to all these key leaders.
Yes.
Like he's going to be standing in front of rulers and judges and people of high influence. So he's looking at what everybody else is looking at as a problem. He's looking at it as an opportunity. So again, it gets down to your worldview, how you shift your perspective. The Moravians were like that. The Moravians were on slave ships, right? Yeah. And we're going, what are you doing? You're selling yourself as a slave. And they're going, no, I'm not. I'm creating an opportunity to save lives.
Yes.
See, and so it's all about how you see. So I'm that's why I want to be careful here, because while I'm saying there's going to be, the craziness is going to continue to escalate, if you can understand things from the perspective of the kingdom of God, there is going to be incredible opportunity in front of us if you have eyes to see and ears to hear.
Yes. Well, okay. I like what Michael also said. Oddly, is it possible both are right and both wrong, or can only one be right? Yes. I think that people can be right and wrong. And I don't think it's, again, at the end of the day, I mean, right now it looks like it's a political war, but I don't know. I think it's spiritual as well. And I think it's between good and evil, period, always. And I think there's good in some of the politics, and then there's bad in both parties, is what I'm saying. And so I don't think, of course I might lean towards one. Let's see. Yes. And he was prophesied to do that. He had a foreknowledge also that was his calling as a witness to Gentile rulers. Some will be called to do that. Yeah. You have to know what you're calling
an opportunity where other people saw it as danger, right? They're like, don't do this.
Right. But I agree with Michael. He knew
Well, that was his calling.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
mean.
right. He
Yeah,
knew.
yeah.
I asked God like a long
But
time
again,
ago.
he had a
Yeah,
different perspective, right? He was
yeah,
two people. I mean, we're getting back to Michael's earlier statement. Two groups of people
yep,
looking at the same situation with very different perspectives. One group of
absolutely.
people says, "Don't go, bad things are going to happen." Another person looks at it and goes, "Oh no, good things are going to happen."
Right,
You see,
right.
who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah. Well, a
They
long
were
time
both right,
ago.
right?
Yeah,
They were right. He did get arrested. Paul
yeah,
was right. He did get an opportunity. And so
he did.
one of the things you got to
In
realize
prison.
right
Yeah,
now
yep.
is that the whole idea behind these political races is to
Yes,
pit this versus that, right?
yes,
To force this versus that. But real life is actually not about this versus that. It's actually about both and. And so Michael's absolutely right. But right now, nobody's being allowed to think like that because we're being forced to pick between this and that. So the whole game is to pit things against each other, right? We're in a match.
right.
It's not about let's try to get on the same page. So I wish life was that simple that everything was this or that, but it's not.
It's not.
It's used typically always both and.
Exactly. It's in context always.
Yeah.
So the lesson, know what God has called you to do. I am going to leave that up there because that's exactly it. Like I was going to tell you a long time ago, I got really into that Left Behind series,
Oh,
you
right.
know, way back. I read all the books, and I was praying a lot at the time, and I was like, God, if the rapture comes, are you going to rapture me? And he was like, no. I was like, what? I was like, I think I heard God say no. Like, why? Now I'm not going to get into all of that theology on if there's a rapture, if there isn't, why he said no. He told me no. And
Right.
So how I took it is I was like, well, since I don't know 100% that there's a rapture or there isn't, and he said no, he's either going to, that means there's not one, or that means he's going to leave me here. And it's to be a light bearer. So what does that mean? And so since then it changed my perspective. Like instead of going, okay, I'm just going to be saved and raptured up, I went, oh, what's my purpose in being a light to people? And how am I going to be strengthened in that? What am I going to do about that? And who am I going to have around me to help supply me with the resources that I need for that? So of course, I had a plan that I would buy a Hummer. That was my first thing. I was like, I'm going to get a Hummer. And then the second is to, ditch any kind of, cell phone, whatever. So, I mean, I had a whole plan in my head on if that were to happen in my lifetime, what that would look like and what would I do? But the whole thing is that still it went back to how I know that God has made me, and that as a light bearer, and to be a networker, and to have all these different people in my life that I know that I could call on if something like this were to happen, and who I could go to. And so I kind of set up my life ever since then like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So he didn't give me the real answer. I know that. Because he knows me better than that, because he doesn't want to ever give me anything ahead of time, because I'll run with it. So he kind of, that's how he's made me. And what's so refreshing about that is because I know what I know. When people go, I know what I know. Well, I do know, because God has given that light to me and told me what my purpose was. And like he said, the lesson is to know what God has called you to do. I know what I've been called to do. I've been called to be a light. And what does that look like? At different times, it looks different. And then I went into a darkness period. I'm not perfect. So, I wasn't following God's plan for me, and just knowing how to get back on track with that, like today. And I'm just going to call anybody today. If you don't know what your purpose is, and if you think that you've messed up so bad, you're wrong. You haven't. And you can turn back to God at any time and seek his face today, and he will restore, redeem, all of those things. So I'm just going to plead with you that you don't think that you're unworthy because you're worthy. Don't think that you can't be redeemed because you can. So please, please turn back if you've turned away. Try to learn what you need to learn. Try to fulfill what you are, because in this time right now is the important time. I feel like we're shifting. We're always shifting. I think any day that you decide to make that commitment back to following what God has planned for your life, and because you can't be, tomorrow may not come. So anyway, I don't know why I just went on with that, but I'm just, everybody is worthy. God put you here for a plan and a purpose, and just trying to find his light for your life will give you that peace, and will take away that fear if you're in fear. But I'm just, if you need to talk to somebody, you need to reach out to somebody. I know Bob and I are here. I know I'm a message away, even if you don't know me, and it's fine, but, inbox me, and I will pray for you. And I have a network of people that will pray for you. So I'm just putting that out there, because if you're uncertain and you're fearful, there is a place that you can get grounded, and that fear can be replaced with peace. So anyway, so there's that. I just feel like, we are coming into some moment of time that's uncertain, even more so. So I just think that it's important that you reach out to something solid and reach out to get your peace back. Okay, so I don't know what Michael put up there. I'm reading it now. So my plan is to get Bob and drive his truck out of the city with Bob shooting. Oh, gosh. Oh, I should have known.
Michael's wry humor again.
Yeah, here I was like getting all serious, and I should have known. Anyway, yeah. Michael will be on Awakenings Within this Thursday evening. So please tune in for that. I think he's actually going to be serious in this one.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yes, I think so. We'll see.
I'm not putting any money on that.
I think he's going to be a little serious, but okay. He has some really great things to share. I know that. So,
well, by that point, tomorrow's
the day.
Tomorrow's big election day. We'll probably have a clearer picture of where we are. So it'll be interesting. We'll have an interesting conversation on Thursday as to where are we now.
Yeah. It might whole shift what his topic's going to be about. We'll see. We'll see how that works. But from what I hear,
he might come dressed like Rambo.
He's going to be broadcasting from an undisclosed
exactly
place. It's undisclosed.
Exactly.
It'll be somewhere in the rural regions.
Bandana and his.
Oh man, that's a look already. I'm envisioning it. I'm envisioning Tina with the matching look.
There you go.
See it already. So
the new version of Power Couple.
Yes, they are. They're great people. But anyway, so
we'll see you on Thursday night, huh?
We'll see. Oh my gosh, we went over, didn't we?
Oh yeah.
Because I kind of went on a thing, didn't I?
Yeah, but that's okay. It was cute.
I went on a thing. You did. I have no idea what I said, but
you went on a spiritual bender.
Yes, because that's the point of the show. Exactly. It really is. And of course, with the loss of my friends.
I hope people listen.
A loss of my friend's son. It's so. We just are not promised tomorrow. So. Make your peace with yourself and find that peace, and God wants you to. He loves you. So anyway.
All right, dear.
All right. Have a wonderful Monday and week going forward. And Michael, thank you. We can't wait to see you on Thursday evening. So tune in for that. So, all right. We'll see you then.
All right.
Have a great evening.